Welcome, welcome, welcome to IEncounter to our series is Lord.
Singles and
Singles and seriously
seriously
dating.
dating.
See, new name change coming because that just if
It
you,
don't roll off the tongue
it
right.
don't roll off the tongue well, but it's okay. It's okay. Soon come. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Where
Soon come.
soon come.
Oh, okay. That's
Yes, yes.
new.
We meet here every Sunday at 9:45. The address is 6260 West Park Drive. That is Suite 150.
I
150.
can never get that
I
right.
never get the suite name right.
I just
But
come.
yes, 9:45 sharp. We have fruitful conversation about relationships, whether that's single, seriously dating, marriage, everything,
Family, friends.
family, everything. It doesn't stop at romantic relationships. So we encourage you guys to come in the house and gain knowledge and wisdom from these fruitful conversations. It is definitely, I believe, one of our purposes is to fellowship. And so I just encourage anybody that is sitting at home that wants to remain um, digital disciples, I encourage you to come in the house. So yes, I if who for who all doesn't know my name is Kayla Calhoun. This is my husband, Jalen Calhoun.
See, that's where you go wrong saying soon come. Now you tongue tied.
Oh
now,
my
you,
God.
now you words about
That
mixed
is
up.
normal vocabulary. Go ahead. So what are we
Lead
talking
us in
about
prayer
today?
first. Lead us
Oh,
open with a prayer first.
and I'm going to open with prayer. Dear God, we just thank you. We praise you. We honor you for today, dear God. We thank you for waking us up and starting us on our way, dear God. We thank you for the purpose that you breathe into us, Father. We ask that you continue to carry us through the week, dear God. Let us take the meat and leave the fat, dear God. Let us take the word in and hide it in our hearts, Father. Let this conversation edify your kingdom, dear God. And we just thank you. We praise you for what's to come, dear God, and what you're doing right now. In Jesus' name, amen. Probably need a new mic.
So today we wanted to talk a little bit. We've been talking about, working on yourself, loving yourself, and that facet of like growing yourself in a relationship with someone else. But we were kind of thinking about it, and we went through a period of time in our relationship too, where it's like, when is it the right time to walk away? Um, and the Bible actually gives more context to that than I actually thought, where the rubber kind of meets the road as far as having patience and then going into a state of like self preservation, basically. Um, and it actually gives quite a few examples of boundaries that I think honestly make sense in any type of relationship that you need to keep in mind. One being, is it a safe environment for you? And that's physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Like, is this person putting you at risk in any way in any of those three phases? And that's something you need to evaluate. I think, especially for men and women, but especially for women when we start looking at kind of domestic issues and situations that a lot of women and men face. I'm not going to exclude men from the violence
Right. You could think about
bestowed.
it, it happened.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy stories from that side and perspective as well. Um, the investment factor, when you are vulnerable, when you do share the truth, is that met with respect, or is that met with disrespect or a shunning of how you feel, or not accepted with any love or patience towards your emotional state? Number three is the relationship becoming a distraction?
Mm.
Is it keeping you from your doing your actual job and career? Is it keeping you from taking care of your kids? Is it keeping you from your family? Is it keeping you from your friends that you held close to your heart? Do you feel like you're having to make a choice
Right.
between that person and things that you've had in your life that are good for you?
Mm-hmm.
We're not necessarily talking about the removing the bad things or someone coming in and getting you off drugs, like the drugs, but the good people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the receptivity. Um, is it a mutual exchange? Are you the only one giving energy to it? Or is that person giving? And I think these are simple things where if you start thinking about, am I safe?
Right.
Do I feel listened to and cared for? Is this a distraction? You know, and then another thing is the expectation factor. Um, you can't expect someone to treat you like a brother that is not a brother. um,
Mhm.
the Bible, Matthew, and I'll kind of double back to it. I have to pull up the. I took a screenshot of the little scripture, but Matthew is one of my favorite people in the Bible, and he's used quite a bit frequently as far as like actual conversations with Jesus and
Mhm.
like when to walk away. As far as like spreading the word, they talk
Mhm.
about that quite a few times. Like
Mhm.
when it's okay to say that they're not being receptive to the word
Mhm.
and walk away. Um, but Jesus makes reference to treat them like a tax collector.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not saying hate them or shun them, but remove the
Be nice.
emotional side of it. That they here to come get that bill, and you don't. In that time period, they didn't treat tax collectors as friends, as brothers, as sisters.
Right.
So it's just another example of not saying shun them,
Mhm.
but again, know when to set that boundary, know when to walk away, and know how to treat people based off the expectation level that you have.
Right.
Um, but those were basically five quick things that you can use to set boundaries. And I think that looking at any relationship, like I said, a friend, a family member, or a partner, those are five things that you honestly need to look at and say, do I feel safe here? Like, is this a safe space type environment?
Yes. And so the first point being, or was that the second point? I like to touch on, can I be vulnerable? Um, I believe that a lot of my past relationships ended because I could not freely be the Christ following person that I wanted to be, and I wanted, what I said or the truth or me sharing the truth, I wanted that to change that person. But I realized time after time, God brings about conviction. God brings about change. So just like it's not much of anything that you can say or do to convict anybody, because we don't have that authority. And so when you can't be vulnerable, that is hard to, share your truth with somebody or be truthful or be yourself in that relationship. um because we identify with a lot of things, but it's not ourselves, not who we are. We're supposed to be at the center, a follower of Christ. And so yeah.
Can I get this text?
Yeah.
So this is the if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector.
Mhm.
And Jesus was polite to tax collectors, but he didn't trust them.
Mhm.
And so I think that's kind of the words way of how you deal with those type of people. Like I can still love you. I can still treat you with respect, but I cannot trust you because
Right.
you don't trust the word that I believe in wholeheartedly.
Right.
And I think it's over and over again. Um, you this doesn't put you, this conversation is not to put people in a place of shunning people. I do want to make that clear where I don't trust you and I'm gonna treat you with hate or some type of negativity. The Bible in no part of it says that you meet hate with hate or you meet disrespect with disrespect or you need to shun anybody. You are supposed to try and love everyone. But again, it comes to a place where peace and patience has to meet at a certain point get cut off to preserve yourself. Um, if you're in a toxic environment, you cannot preserve yourself in a toxic environment.
Yeah.
So a certain place that man or woman that's an alcoholic that's been drinking and they're starting to get more violent, at a
Mhm.
certain point, your patience has to say, okay, I am not safe here. The first one, physically or emotionally, I'm not safe here, and you have to know when to walk away from that situation. You have something, Pastor Lowe?
Yes, I did. What I wanted to say, a lot of people mistake your quietness as being vulnerable, and I do know people who are in relationship who are screaming for help, are screaming for someone to actually hear them, and they need a word of encouragement, but they don't know how to open themselves up to receive because they've been down. They've been down for so long, and people have stepped on them to where they still don't even know when the help has come and stuff. And so in relationships, I really believe it is very important that you understand your partner's weeks, do's and don'ts, pros and cons, and to where you can also facilitate in that situation how to maneuver. Well, this person is a screamer. Well, how do I diffuse the situation? Don't scream back at them. Bring it down. Bring the tone down a little bit to where now they can hear them screaming, and then they be able to bring it down. And then if you're in a relationship, and you talk about an abusive relationship, people who are in an abusive relationship find themselves in a pattern to where they can't get out, especially if it's been going on for a long time. And I'm thinking of it, and the first time that I really had a chance to have an understanding about that is with one of my family members. And I used to always wonder why why I'm like, it just happens often. It just kept happening, and I was thinking like, why? That's because, and she was a strong person, you know what I mean? And I remember coming up, girls used to be afraid, but it was something about her being in that relationship. She was very vulnerable, and she would not scream for help. And I used to think, why? Well, I think personally it was a spirit behind that, to where, and something connected her to where he was able to use his influence and manipulation to keep her. Like, I don't know what kind of conversation that was, what was being said, but I do know just by them having this relationship, and she staying in and have multiple kids, that she felt some kind of connection. And I really believe that manipulation that he used on her was able to draw her back, even after she said no, even after she said I quit, even after she said I'm done. But then for some reason she found her way back into his arms, and it happened over and over again. So I just said all that to say that I love this fruitful conversation because there's so many avenues and so many limbs to this that we can actually touch on. I don't think this is actually a 45-minute or a 35-minute conversation, because it's very, very, very fruitful for people to understand when they're dating, and have an understanding about being vulnerable. Why are you drawn to this person? Why are you still in this abusive relationship? How can we connect? All this stuff. So I just want to say that.
And we could go back into a little text because I'm glad you shared that, right? And I think it goes into a realm of where you think you get what you deserve a little bit. I've seen situations like that too, especially, and I know we've talked about situations like that. I'm not gonna share about who, but unless you want to, but where we've had family members that are in abusive situations, the even life-threatening abusive situations, and it's like, why do you keep going back? Why do you keep going back? But the text says, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." Matthew 7:6. Back to Matthew. That's my guy. I told you that's my
I love
guy.
that. I love that.
He says he was special. He was special.
All
In
right.
context, I found out he was special. But he has some very big points, and basically pearls represent like wisdom, and that's like vulnerability, truth, your heart. Um, and then the pigs are, of course, what they sound like in that reference. So don't throw it to pigs, or don't throw it to the person that's trying to manipulate you, um, and attacking you. And I think me and Pastor Chris actually, let me say this real quick. Me and Pastor Chris talked yesterday, and I think this made a lot more things make a lot more sense to me. We let, as African Americans, we let history be controlled by uh, white Americans, Caucasians. A lot of the textbooks we read, a lot of the curriculum, is all controlled by that race of people. But when you look at history, the person that wins the war is usually the person that controls history. So if someone is manipulating you, you first have to figure out that you're in that matrix to even get out of it, right? Because we started this relationship with manipulation. So that's what I trust from you. And if I don't see it, a lot of the times we're like, we can see it from the outside looking in. Like, why are you with him? He is lying. I saw him at the club last week and he told you he was at home and you believe him over me. Like, those types of situations. It's like, you don't even know the level of manipulation that you're undergoing until you out of the relationship, and then 5 years later in hindsight you can say, wow,
I was
that's
being
crazy,
manipulated.
I was being controlled.
Yes. And I wanted, and in addition to that, I know you love Matthew. Um, in addition to the Bible characters, in this subject matter, I thought about Solomon and how many wives he had, how many relationships he came across, and the fact that he wrote Proverbs. Um, I believe that he was overqualified for. Teaching us how boundaries are a form of love, not rejection. How to go about treating people, what to who to hang around, And I think we touched on it in the car when you were saying, um, you're gonna be start to become. I can't. I'm paraphrasing, but you know, basically, don't hang around people because you're gonna start to
Avoid
become them,
adopting toxic traits
which is
for your personal growth. You have to remove yourselves from those types of situations.
exactly. So it's a scripture in Proverbs, touching on that, but I don't know it verbatim. But do you know the
Yeah.
scripture I'm talking about?
So,
And I'm gonna say something one more thing after that.
well, these are kind of like proverbial warnings, and I think that the messenger is kind of funny for some of these,
Mhm.
considering if you know saw like how crazy he went at a certain point and was
Mhm.
like a homicidal killer, basically. So the angry person. Do not make friends with a hot tempered person. Do not associate with
Yeah.
one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. The fool. Go from the presence of a foolish man when you do not perceive him the lips of knowledge. In him the lips of knowledge.
Mhm.
These are all proverbs, by the way.
Mhm.
And then third one, the scoffer. Drive out the mocker, and out goes strife, quarrels, and insults are ended.
Right. And so I believe, to answer your question, the question that we ask oftentimes on the outside looking in, I believe that they have adopted those traits, um, of the manipulator, of the wrongdoer. And so that is why they keep going back, because it's something that they've embedded, a truth that they've embedded, is something that they agreed with, um, in regards to what the enemy was whispering in their ear. These things are very real, and it, from the outside looking in, it, oftentimes you don't understand. But like you said earlier, it's a spirit. These things attach themselves to us. Based on our environment, based on who we choose to be around. And then one of the other proverbs that I like is, like a city's like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self control. And back to my point, my first point, boundaries are a form of love and not rejection. Um, he emphasized restraint and self control because unchecked access destroys relationships. So healthy relationship requires emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries, time boundaries. Um, Solomon's own failures with boundaries later in life validate the warning. Proverbs teaches us that love without wisdom becomes indulgence. And indulgence eventually breeds regret. So we end up resenting these people. We end up regretting that, or feeling like we wasted our time and things like that, because we were not healthy enough to assess these emotional boundaries, assess these sexual boundaries, time boundaries, and when you can't share your truth with that person, all of that stuff follows. So, mhm.
And I think I thought this was a funny example too. Just how humans are, right? So David and Saul, great example. I think I mentioned it a little bit ago. So Um, s- is a text in Samuel. Saul stayed in the palace, and while David was playing the lyre, Saul reached for a spear. He thought, "I'll pin David to the wall," but David eluded him twice. Don't be David. Don't be David in the sense that he let this man throw two spears at him and stayed. The only reason he left is because Jonathan told him that this man is set on killing you. Don't stay in the house while someone is throwing spears at you trying to pin you to a wall. But we do it. I've done it. Where it's like you can see the warnings, and that's why I thought it was good to start out with the boundaries that you need to set to where you can. It's not rocket science, and usually people will let you know if you express your feelings on how you feel about something deeply, and it's met with just rejection or just I don't care, and you just spilled your heart. That tells you a lot.
That's the one thing I want to point out is like I think people are even scared to do that, scared to spill out their heart, scared to. We have a lot of work to do in regards of that, like people being like that trait being embedded into that person, like I'm not gonna do this because they have fear of rejection and things like that. Um, and I think that beyond that, at that point where you do express yourself, that is where like what you just said, where you assess, is this person respecting what I'm saying? Does this person have any regard to how I
But you know what's funny about that?
what?
Most people have such a high fear of rejection that they usually end up getting rejected.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have stage fright, right, and then you get on the stage and you let the stage fright overcome you, then exactly what you thought was gonna happen is gonna happen. You're gonna get up there, you're gonna look like a deer in headlights, and then you're gonna be embarrassed, and it's gonna be a bad experience for you.
Right. And just speaking off of experience, I think that I had that anxiety at first where I was scared to like, be truthful and scared to, be on fire for Christ in front of certain people and things like that. And when I actually did it, when I actually just stopped, being in my head about it, in those experiences, I've actually been accepted. It's actually the quite the opposite, and I think that it only proves a point that anxiety is a lie. It always lies to you. Yes, a lot of people say we need anxiety to some certain degree or whatever to I guess some like a safety type measure, but I think that ultimately anxiety lies to you, and it's never what you think is gonna happen, um, because a lot of it's not like the world is not everybody's not out to get you, but we have to stand on our truth. We have to be you're not afraid to express that part of ourselves to people, because that's really how you assess the people around you. Because God, my mom told me this my whole life: God cannot fix a lie. He can't fix what you are, covering yourself up to be. So once you reveal that truth, that's when he starts to reveal people to you. And that's how you're able to gauge what relationship I should be in, what relationship I can't be in. But if you're not expressing of the love of Christ, if you're not sharing the good news, you're blind.
And yeah, I think you asked that in the car. Oh, got one. Okay. I think you asked that in the car. And I think that's a big thing. If you can't share your spirituality or like your relationship with God with your partner, I think that's a big warning, red flag right there. That is a key foundation in most people, their religious belief in a higher power of some sort, or their lack of religious belief in any higher power of any sort. Um, so certain things I do think you need to have basically non-negotiation factors for. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yes, this, like I said before, this is definitely a fruitful conversation, and I definitely want to add this. I believe being in a house is very important. Being under a covering is very important, and I know a lot of people go out and have their own ministries. People go out and do that, but because of someone having a David and Saul experience, and the other end they are David, they need a friend to tell them and to pull them.
That's
Yeah,
good.
they need a friend to tell them and pull them into a place of security, into a place of comfort, to let them know, hey,
And honesty.
and honesty, what you're in is not healthy. And some people don't listen because what we talked about earlier is that they've been bounded and been down for so long, it takes a while for them to be pulled up. And you got to get to the root of that situation. And when you get to the root of it, then you be able to deal with the emotions and be able to deal with what draw them, that spirit we talked about earlier. Be able to attack those things. But you're not going to get it at Safeway. Oh, well, that's an old Safeway at Kroger's. I was naming it. You're not going to get it at Macy's. You're not going to get it there. You're going to get it in the house. And you need to be in the house in order for you to find your safe place and your security and have an understanding. And I'm not saying everybody in the house is going to have your answer, but what it is that you can meet God where you can meet him where he needs to meet you. And when you come and you lay it at the altar, he will give you answers. And believe me, it will be somebody in the sanctuary who maybe been through something serious, or they seen someone with a similar pattern that you went through, and they can help you. They can give you a situation and give you instructions, and that's where your strength you'll start finding. And now your no means no because you've been saying no all this time, but you keep going back, and your no still mean yes. But you have to say no in order for you to separate yourself from that toxic relationship.
So good. I'm glad you said that because it just when you were saying it, it made me think about what we receive from people outside of the house, and a lot of people pacify emotion. A lot of people pacify. They don't go to the root. And when you're around, and it's real practical, like you said, not everybody in the house is gonna have an answer, but it's gonna be that one person that sees your pain, that sees your pain from a godly standpoint. We have to be around like-minded people because the world is gonna pacify it. The world is just gonna, be at the surface level, whatever they see, like, oh, you're sad, just go do something that makes you more happy, like mundane, very, very surface things, like but you have to get to the root in order to sever the thing that has you bound, or it's just gonna keep coming. It's gonna be vicious cycles over and over and over again, and it's so important to just be around like-minded Christians.
And I'll say this just for a contextual backing of this. I don't really understand the extent of Jonathan and David's relationship. The way it's written about is strange. um, some of the lines they were very very close, very close. I'm gonna leave that there. Um, but everybody doesn't have that person, to your point, that they would just trust like that. And that's why I do think it's important to talk outside of just relationships with a partner about your relationships with your friends and your family as well, because those are the people like Jonathan that can actually get David's ear to tell him, like, you in a dangerous game. And this man is not going to stop killing you. No matter how good you play your instrument, no matter how much you entertain them, no matter how many battles you go and win, this man wants to kill you right now. And I think the dangerous part is Saul wrote other parts of the Bible that shows he understands where those boundaries are, such as Proverbs, and he talks about love and beauty. Oh, Solomon. Sorry, but Saul, um, it's like this is someone who's shown they know and understand, but at the end of the day, that person is the most dangerous because they do know and understand, but they've still chosen to let a spirit overtake them. And it's sometimes I do believe it is a spirit that comes into play, where it's like you don't know why you did it in that moment, and you try and process, like, what was I thinking about, like, why was I making this decision, why did I keep going back to this thing. And like I have moments like that where it's like, why did I spend 2 years doing that.
um Make sure we answer, because of the name of the class is when to walk away. So I want to get your take on at what point do you feel like it's necessary to walk away once you've assessed what you've assessed.
I think the easiest things to assess, and I think it's different for men and women. I think the easiest thing is like when I express vulnerability. How does a woman meet that? I think a lot of men and women probably don't realize it as much because men try and hide it a little bit more. But if I'm like expressing myself to you in a deep way that I wouldn't really share with anybody else, it's like how do you respond to that? Um, I think a lot of men sometimes kind of just settle in that regard because it's like you're supposed to be a man, you're supposed to be able to just handle stuff and like you should be able to hold it in and like have your own personal relationship with God to figure it out. Like, and a lot of men kind of get caught in that mind state. And I think that's a dangerous mind state because you still need other people. Like I have a great relationship with my dad. My dad gives me a lot of wisdom, but everybody doesn't have that. And so when you think about from a man's perspective, I would say that, and then I think from a woman's perspective, I think the safety aspect is where probably most women go first. It's like, do I even feel safe physically with this man? Or when I get in the car, do I feel like we might end up in the parking lot at the after hours in a dangerous place? Like, like what type of person is this man, a drug dealer, and he just don't know what's gonna happen to him every day, and it might happen to us at the mall randomly. Um, but for men, I think the safety aspect is like one of those last things that we think about, and it's more of a mental thing. Like, does this person attract me mentally? One, and then two, does this person make me feel like I have a value thought process that we could actually communicate on a deeper level than just a surface level thing of how we look or how we feel that day?
Not that what you said wasn't correct, but I don't necessarily the way you compartmentalized it. I don't necessarily think that's for all men and women. For for me, I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of my friends, it's not physical safety that it's that emotional. Once we step into that realm of the possibility of relationship, we start to think about safety in terms of our mental and our psychological construct, because that's why a lot of women struggle coming out of bad relationships, because when they set the boundaries and they said, okay, I'm gonna let this go and I'm gonna let this go, I'm gonna let this go, at the end of that we are psychologically and mentally drained. And so when you realize that that scenario that keeps repeating itself, when you're in a relationship, the first thing you think, for me, is not safety physically, even though that could be a thing, okay? Mentally, how are you going to take care of me mentally? I know with Pastor Lorenzo, um, that he was the first person where, number one, we had a conversation about boundaries in Starbucks. We talk about it all the time. But number two, I had to tell him that I feel safe when things happen. And he said, okay, I feel safe when these things happen. Until you get to a relationship like Jonathan and David, doesn't matter the gray part. What matters is that they were so close, that they were so in love as friends, we'll put it at that, that it would have been okay to say, this is my boundary, this is this, when you're with that person. So for to go back to my original point, I think men may say, how are you going to take care of me, mentally and physically, mentally and psychologically. But women say the same thing. And that's why I think we see a lot of broken women mentally. Now, there are some women that are, that have been physically hurt. That's a story that most of us can tell. I use the personal pronoun. But, the first thing is, how are you going to care for me mentally and psychologically? If you're not going to do that, if I got a sense, get a sense you're not going to do that, I'm walking away.
Okay, so I have one other question for you because I like that you said that, and I appreciate that you said that. Because from a man's perspective, I didn't see it like that, but I see the equality across the
Yeah.
board there, where it's like we all mentally want to feel safe.
Yeah,
And
we
I
do.
guess if you have enough wisdom, you probably wouldn't be in certain environments where physical safety is like the first thought, right? Hopefully. But my other question to you is, you talked about you having a conversation about boundaries at Starbucks. Was that one of the earlier things you did, or in your perspective, when do you think is the right time to kind of have that conversation? As far as you don't have that conversation on the first date, I don't think, right? Or do you think you should have that
No,
conversation on the
no, no,
first
no,
date?
no. We didn't have that conversation on the first date. We met on the 29th. I would say in that following weekend, I went to Dallas for a dance trip. 2 days after I came back is when we had that conversation because I immediately knew that this was going to be something. I didn't know what it was, but I just felt like it was going to be something. And I wanted that to have that conversation. Maybe not 2 days, maybe more like 2 weeks. I wanted to have that conversation. It was before we came out of January of 2020 that we had that conversation. And because I wanted to get this relationship right. And I had never done that before. I had let dudes pretty much, and well, I'm not ashamed to say this because I learned some things, but I let dudes do literally not whatever they wanted. That's not the word. That's not the words I'm looking for. But I had I there were no boundaries, and I kept moving the needle on the boundaries. Things that I just absolutely did not like. You know, like cursing 30, 48 hours. It's not even 48 hours in a day, but it feels like. Smoking different kinds of cigarettes. Being disrespectful, not even being respectful to your mom. I see this with my eyes. You're not disrespectful to you're not respectful to your mom. You're not respectful to your mom or your sister. That should have been a red flag for me. So there are things that I let pass me by. I overlooked because I wanted to be in a relationship. But when the relationship with God reigns supreme, then you are willing to say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Sharing that because I think that is for me. I believe that I didn't really assess if it was like more so. I was like I wasn't aware, like conscious of people keeping me mentally or me being safe mentally because I kind of had that relationship with God and it was, you know, something I did on my alone time. Like I separated, it was me and God and then me and that other person. So I never really took the time to like assess, is this person, like, if, when I'm anxious or when I'm like all over the place, is this person like keeping me leveled or keeping me neutral or you know covering me in prayer. Like I didn't even have those conversations with myself just in hindsight, because I was doing things in my own strength, and I wasn't really valuing what relationship could do for me, in regards to getting closer to God or anything like that, because I just had my relationship with God. So a lot of times that kind of, I just wasn't aware of that. You made me aware to, even with him. I know we are constantly growing and constantly getting closer to each other. Um, and I don't think that we had that boundary conversation, which is not, not that you've crossed any boundaries, not that, things have happened where you tested boundaries, but, we never, I don't think we've assessed, just being transparent.
I think I tried to set some boundaries.
I mean, like physical boundary. Like I don't like when you put dirty dishes next to the sink and not in the sink, or stuff like that. That's like mundane. I'm talking about like, you know, how we keep each other mentally and emotionally, which it's happened naturally. So it never came up as something we needed to assess. Like I said, you never crossed the boundary or like disrespected me in a way where
I
I had
think
to
I'm
talk about it.
always like conscious of like how something will make you feel. Um, I do think that's interesting. We never really had a conversation like that, just an explicit like let's sit down and let's talk about boundaries and like what really drives you up, like what you can't stand, what's a non-negotiable for you. Um, and then I think about me younger and like in college, and it's like I didn't really have expectations for myself as much. And so I don't feel like I had really expectations or boundaries for anybody that I was dating in that time period. It was kind of just like, oh, you look nice and you seem nice, and we'll figure it out. And I went through a lot in that time period with that with that thought process. Like, oh, you look good. Um, you smell nice. You talk nice. All right, let's figure. Let's see what happens. Roll of the dice, Pastor. You got something?
Yes. Um, and in relationships, and or when you start in a relationship, I think a lot of people they ask that question, "What do you bring to the table?" And I think we don't really get an overall picture of what do you mean by bringing to the table, because we actually look for the natural stuff for the table instead of the spiritual side. And I think that's where we miss it, and that's where we miss God, because this person may be wealthy, this person may have a nice car, this person might have all the things you want in the natural. And so that's what she or he brings to the table, and they love that. But now, what's going to happen when the argument starts? When you just like, yeah, what's going to happen when the dirty dishes? So what's going to happen when the clothes don't get washed? What's going to happen when things start to fumble and you can't hold on to it, and now you didn't had a turnover? I was using a sports analogy with that one. But what I'm saying is that, are you going to get frustrated? Are you going to wait for the next play until you get possession of the ball again? So what I'm saying is that you follow me? What I'm saying is so what I'm saying is that we have to be really careful about being in a relationship, setting boundaries and all that, because you got to have this. She brought it to the table. That was something that I never ever had happen to me. And so I just remember, and I always reflect back to that. I remember where we were sitting. I remember with Starbucks. I remember everything. She came in and she was like, and then she came to me. She was like, but don't you have some questions for me? You know what I'm saying? Right, right. She was like, don't you got like open up? She's telling me to open up. Like, really, let's find out. If this is going to happen, if we're going to start open up. And I was just saying like, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's like, man,
No,
nobody's ever asked me
no. I
this.
mean, at the end of the day, I did like it because and we had a fruitful conversation yesterday, and I liked it. Hey, we touched on some things that's going to help our relationship grow, and a lot of people don't like that. People don't like the daggers to the relationship. It's scary. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's a class in itself, the fear of rejection. I was on playing my basketball game online with some of my friends yesterday. Yesterday or the day before yesterday. And I was like, yeah, I had to do something with my wife, and I was like, I'm online now, basically. And they was all like, wife? Like, why would I get married? Like, I don't even want a girlfriend. They started talking about Valentine's Day or something like that. And I was like, y'all, what? Y'all like girls? What's wrong with y'all? Like the way they like were repulsed by like me like spending my time in that way and having somebody. It's like they weren't mad at me, but it was like, what type of fear of rejection or what type of hurt have you went through to where that's your response when we talk about Valentine's Day? They was like, I ain't taking no girl nowhere. I ain't doing nothing on Valentine's Day. I ain't with nobody like that. Like, I ain't doing none of that. I don't want that. And I was like, what you want then? Like, what do you? And it's like,
I haven't met those friends.
so yeah, it was one. Well, my other friend's married, so he understood. He was like, "Yeah, man, I was washing the dishes myself, bro." And I was like, "That's
You're
my
just
dog.
that
That's
one
my
friend,
dog."
that one friend that can't
Yeah, he
commit.
understands. He knows what's going on.
Got it.
Uh, but it's like men. I think that's an interesting conversation too. It's like how men approach that fear of rejection and how we act, we kind of act like kids, where it's like the person you like, you act like you don't like them, and you try and be mean to them a little bit. You know what I'm saying? That's how you get their attention. I think that's how men kind of, as adults, treat relationships and women when they get hurt. Cause it's like I don't ill. Yeah, it's like a yuck, ill. Her? Nah, I don't want to do that on Valentine's Day. I ain't taking nobody out for no $200 dinner on Valentine's Day that I care about. Cause I've been hurt. Like I don't want to talk about it either. No, we can't talk about that in the chat. Like it's good. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm happy alone. It's like where men go, and it's just like that's interesting. Because do you think it's a difference in how women approach the fear of rejection? Is it more of a precautious thing, or is it just like a shunning of relationship? I'm kind of curious on what women think about that, or is it the same type of thing? Like I don't need no man, and I guess I've
I
seen
think
women like that
there's a
too.
spectrum. Yeah, it's a varies thing. I feel like there's a spectrum on that. Where there are women that are extreme, like I don't need no man to do this. I'm independent, whatever, whatever. Because maybe in that time where they did place themselves in a place of vulnerability, hoping that a man would do whatever um, that society deems women to do or whatever, that they were rejected. So I've seen met women on that extreme, like you don't need no man to complete you. You already complete, yada yada yada. But the reluctant woman, I believe that is scared to even take a step towards vulnerability because they don't want they've in their childhood, maybe got rejected by their dad or somebody outside of a romantic relationship, or their peers or their family. So it just kind of keeps them bound in this place of isolation because they don't want to be rejected again. You know.
Um. Oh, I got you. You want to go first? Oh, okay. Yep. 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 So I do want to say a couple things really quick. One, I loved what you added to the conversation, Minister Iris, um, about talking about those standards that you have and expectations that you have with your partner. I do think that's something in hindsight. I know I said we didn't do it. Everybody is different. You can't put anybody in a black and white box as we kind of discussed as this conversation has progressed. But I do think that's something that you should do earlier on. You don't want to get to the altar and then start talking about non-negotiables and what you think this person should be doing as far as your expectation levels. Like if you don't like cigarettes and you can't smell the cigarettes and they make you nauseous, that may be something you need to think about before you try and go further with this person. And then the other thing I think about being married now, one of the biggest things I think about, and it talks about it in the Bible all the time in a multitude of different ways, is searching for someone that brings you peace, searching for someone that bring not someone that brings a certain amount of money in, not someone that is nice most of the time, not someone that is, you know what I mean, someone that when you sit down at home and it's just you by yourself or you with that person or you're at work, you're in a state of peace. Like you have that person, you can rely on them, and you can go home every day and have that person be there, and you just need to continue doing the right thing. And we're talking about when to walk away. I think that's one big thing right there. If you dating someone and every day you come home and it just feel like a toxic situation, you don't know what you go walk into when you go home every day. It's just a roll of the dice. You might you might come home and everything be upside down. You just don't know. Like when I come home, I could expect that it's gonna be the way I left it.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to say something else, I have one more text and then
Okay.
we can close out.
But yeah, I think to wrap it up, I believe that, especially in Proverbs, it teaches that attraction fades, emotions fluctuate, and chemistry can mislead. And those three things are the things that we allow to lead our desire in being in a relationship. So I believe that, one thing I feel that should be taken away is the fact that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So if we fear the Lord and we have reverence for him, knowing that he wants us to be in kingdom relationships, that is where your wisdom can sustain love, preserve peace, build legacies, things like that. So that's my biggest takeaway from it. And you can, I guess, close us out in prayer and in your text.
So Romans 12:18, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Um, and I think the big part of that is as far as it depends on you. That's basically saying like as long as you've done your part, um, then and peace is if peace is still not possible after you've done your part, then you're not biblically obligated to continue down that path. So you got to ask yourself, have I done everything I can to maintain peace? If you have and you still can't maintain it, you don't need to keep sitting there trying to fight or tongue wrestle with somebody over that point. Like you've done what you can, know when to walk away. You gotta know when to. What does that song say? You gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them. Gotta know when to run. Know when to run. That was the most important part of that song. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. Um, but I'm gonna leave y'all with that on a lighter note. I do want to make this to where it's like we kind of create more steps. I think talking about those obligations and expectations is something that I do want to include in those steps. So hopefully, as a team, that's something we can kind of continue working on to give people that are going through rough patches something that hey, work on this, work on this, work on this, and then try and get to that because that's something I learned. There was a lot of work I had to do internally that she couldn't do for me. That your parents can't do for you, your friends can't do for you. You gotta make a decision at the end of the day. So, just try and pick a good person. That is a good conversation in itself too, because I don't like being asked questions. Got you, got you. I have not. I went to therapy when I was a teenager. My dad like took me on a surprise trip because I was trying. I have bipolar, so I was struggling when I was younger. And he was like, "We gonna take you to talk to somebody," and they started asking me questions. It was one of the angriest. Like I got in the car and I never talked to him like that at that age, really ever in my life. But I got in the car, I was so mad. I did not care. I was like, "Don't do that again." Don't do that again. This is contrary because now as an adult, I understand the importance of it, but I think we have these preconceived notions um, that we can do it ourselves, or that we don't need to talk to anybody, or that we don't. I don't like being asked questions. Don't ask me no questions. Like I don't want to sit here for an hour and you just ask me how I feel. Like, but it's you need to ask yourself, and having someone else ask you sometimes is liberating. Like, yeah, I actually did need to think about that. Like, I actually haven't processed my childhood hurt when my dad didn't come to my pick me up from my mom's house. So, um, we'll close out in prayer. Um, Lord God, please protect everyone on their way into the house today. Please continue to put love in everyone's heart and understand that we can love people, and even those that are not walking in the faith, we can still love them. That does not mean we need to trust everyone going into our message today, but you can love everyone without trusting everyone. And hopefully, one day the world can get to a place where we can all just trust everyone equally. But continue to grow that love in your heart. Continue to make strides to be a better person and make a decision every day to get up and do the right thing. And as we try and do those things, hopefully, God, you bestow upon us the will to continue down those paths and continue doing bigger and greater things as we're trying to do here at IEncounter. So again, Lord, continue to bless this house. Continue to bless everyone that comes into the house and everyone outside of the house. Thank you for every blessing that you've given me and every blessing that you haven't, and every ailment that you haven't given me and everything that you will give me down the line. Lord, I'm ready for, and I just want to walk in your will. So thank you, Lord God, for the day. Thank you for tomorrow. And thank you